We have had a very sad, violent few weeks, months, and I'm wondering if anyone is asking the question, what is God up to? Is it wrong to be angry at God for the things that we've seen happen lately? We're going to talk about it in this episode.
Welcome to my take. Well, it's not my take, it's Miguel Crespo's take. Whatever. For inspiration to go.
Welcome to My Take, Pastor Crespo here. My Take is your oasis of inspiration and hope in the desert of negativity and despair. Thank you for joining the podcast and being a part of the My Take family. Friends, if you're sensing I'm a little bit hesitant or not as enthusiastic as I normally am, there's good reason for it. We have had a very tragic couple of months. And I just, I've been watching the news. Well, let me start over again. Let me share with you some of the things that have been happening lately. For those of you, if you have not been keeping close tabs on what's been happening, if you've not been watching the news, let's just go back a few months. June 14th of this year, Minnesota Democrat Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed after a madman, a crazy man, posed as a police officer, walked up to their door, knocked on the door, and then killed her and her husband. It was a politically motivated attack. Let's see. Next up, here we have August 22nd, Charlotte, North Carolina. A Ukrainian refugee, Irina Zarutska, was stabbed by a homeless person while she was, I believe, headed home on a train, on a light rail line. Here's another one. August 27, in Minneapolis, there was a school shooting. A Catholic school was shot up by someone who he killed 2, injured 17, but he shot at the school from the outside through the windows at a bunch of children who were having, they were doing worship. They were doing worship, and in the middle of this service, this man kills 2 children and then injures 17 others. And of course, just recently here, not too long ago here, September 10, conservative Charlie Kirk, who was, I believe, co-founder of Turning Point USA at just 31 years of age, was assassinated. Now, the world has watched all of this. You've seen all of this happen. Everyone is offering their advice. Everyone is offering their take. And they're wondering what's happening. You know, I want to share my thoughts with you in this episode because it's difficult. Are we going into the new normal? Is this the new normal where now violence, political violence, this is the way we end up ultimately solving everything? I mean, we've said enough words, right? There's been enough vitriol and hatred. Is this just what we can expect now? Is this a sign of something more? You know, I've been watching the people on the news give their response, but I don't know. There's some things that I want to share with you that I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard anybody else talk about it. But let me stop and just ask a question. As you are watching the news, as you're seeing all of these things happening, is anyone listening to me, watching me, that is feeling a little bit angry right now? Is anyone maybe feeling a little angry at God? I mean, how could God let this happen? You know, in biblical thought, when you read the Bible, when there's writing about God, it says things like this: God did such and such. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. God brought a plague. God killed this person. God did that. And sometimes people wonder how God can do these things. The way that it has been explained to me, and this is the way that I explain it to people, that in the Hebrew mindset, what God receives credit for the things he does, but God also receives credit for the things that he allows. In other words, God didn't do it, but he allowed it. And so here we have a situation where there's all this death, all this just pain and suffering. And I'm just wondering if there's someone out there who's wondering, what's God doing? What are you up to? Why would you let these bad things happen? Why wouldn't you stand in there and protect innocent children, protect innocent people from being killed or seriously harmed. I'm wondering if there's anybody today who is thinking or asking the question, God, what are you doing? What are you up to? Is there anyone out there who is refusing to have faith in God because of stuff like this, seeing this type of thing? I know that there are many, and maybe you are watching this podcast episode today. Let me share my take. I'm going to share my take on this with you, and that's this. First of all, we need to understand something. We live in a sick world. We live in a world that is sick. We live in a world that is suffering the consequences of living where you reject the principles of God, where you reject the principles of heaven, of the Bible. Now, I want to share something with you because I believe that the Bible does speak to this in a certain way. When I've been watching these things, what's come to my mind is, boy, there's a lot of death and suffering right now. And I can't help but go back to the Bible, to a specific chapter in the Bible. Let me share some Bible text with you. I want to share with you some verses out of the book of Matthew, Matthew chapter 24. In Matthew 24, we find something really interesting. Jesus is speaking with his disciples. Now, the background or the context is that Jesus was talking with his disciples about the temple, and he told them, as they were admiring how great and wonderful it was, he said, guys, there's going to come a point where there's not going to even be one stone left upon another. And they understood that to mean the end of the world. So when they asked him, well, give us, how is this going to happen? We want more information. He begins to tell them about the signs of the times leading to the end. But listen to what he says here because I find this interesting. Matthew chapter 24, I'm going to read verse 9 and 10 here. He says this, then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Now, if I was to try and put that in modern terms, what is he saying? He's saying that people are going to be killed. Why? Because they believe in the name of Jesus. But at its most basic, well, let me read verse 10. And it says, and then many shall be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another. Now, where is this offense and hatred coming from? We live in a world today where people get offended super, super easy now. I mean, over the slightest thing, they get all bent out of shape. But what is it saying here? It's saying that people will kill people, people will hate people just because they have a different worldview. Now, Matthew 24 is a prophetic chapter talking about the times of the end. And it's specifically, I don't want to get away from this, it's specifically referring to the context of what, and there will come a time where Christians overall will be hated. Right now, we see a little bit of this, but we see violence hitting everyone regardless of their religious belief. But this verse still applies. Why? Because what it's saying is people are going to hate each other. People are going to be offended. Why? Because they don't agree. They don't have the same worldview. Their ideology is different. So here we see what is happening right now. People are killing each other. People hate each other just because we don't agree in the same worldview. We're no longer tolerant. We fix things at the point of a knife or the point of a gun. Jesus said this was going to happen. Now, let me just keep going because if you read in verse 11, he says, and many false prophets shall arise and shall deceive many. Well, why is that? Why is that interesting? Why is that important? Well, here's the deal. What do we see right now? I just saw a post, a friend of mine, I was in a meeting and a friend of mine was sitting next to me and he says, "Psst, hey, pastor, look at this." And he showed me a post that a friend of his put on Facebook. And the post says, it's time to go after all the lefty lunatics. Basically, this person next to me, his friend that was online, was advocating for violence against those on the left, politically speaking. So what's our response to Charlie Kirk, a conservative Republican? Well, he wasn't a politician, but he was definitely a people influencer. He was an influencer for the Republicans, for the conservatives. He got killed. What are we going to do? Well, let's go kill one of theirs. Why? Because Well, it's revenge, and we don't agree in this worldview. It's no longer we disagree. Now it's like, if you don't agree with me, you are evil. There are people in the news right now who, some are trying to find a middle ground, a ground of peace, but then there are others who are sticking to their guns and they're saying the other side is wrong. We have to fight back. These fall into the category of false prophets. Of course, again, I don't want to get away from the spiritual nature of Matthew 24. This is talking about in the context of Christianity, of how Christians will be in the end the ones who will be really hated. Again, we see some of that now, but I believe it's going to get worse as we get closer to the end of time. But here's the thing. Let me go back to what I was asking. Jesus tells of a time where people are going to hate each other. Jesus tells of a time where people are going to fight. They're going to kill each other. Why? Because they have differing ideologies, differing worldviews. But I don't know. I can't help but think to ask the question, God, if you see all this coming, why are you letting all this suffering happen? I mean, God, if you have the ability to stop this, why don't you stop it? Why is it that bad things happen? You're right there, aren't you? I mean, have you ever wondered? Have you ever wondered why God allows bad things to happen? Is there anybody who's listening to me right now who's maybe you're a little bit upset? Maybe this is the reason, for those of you on the fringes who are saying, "Well, this is the reason why I can't become a Christian, because your God allows this type of thing to happen." It's difficult to look at this without honestly asking the question, what is God up to? And then there's that little devil on your shoulder, so to speak, that wants to get you to take it to the next step. Listen, God allows it. He's not really God. Maybe he doesn't exist. Maybe he doesn't care. And maybe if he doesn't care, then why should you? My friend, in this episode, I want to speak specifically to you. If you're seeing all the things that are happening, and we've seen, I mean, and there's more, but I just picked out some things that were kind of more high profile. If you're seeing all the violence, all the hatred, all the pain, and you're wondering, why, God, how could you let this happen? I mean, I thought you loved us. I thought you cared. If there's anybody thinking that maybe I need to just let go, I want to share something with you. Jesus shared in Matthew 24 that these things were going to happen. But then he had something really interesting. Let me go back to it. I just want to share this with you. I'd rather have you see it than just me say it. He says this in verse 12, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. What does that mean? Because suffering and pain will be abounding, meaning that there's going to be a lot of this, that people's love for God, some, is going to wax cold. There will be some people that will give up their faith in God over things like this. But then here we go. This is what I want to point you to. Matthew 24, verse 13. Jesus says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. What does Jesus mean by saying he that shall endure to the end? What is he talking about? I want to give you a different take. Maybe you haven't heard it put this way before. In Matthew 24, Jesus talks about what's going to happen as we near the end time. Jesus says that, yeah, you know what? People are going to hate each other. People are going to be offended. People are going to kill each other. Now, in the main context, it will be because you choose to hold on to your Christian faith. But even before that, what are we seeing right now? We see people killing each other because they disagree in their worldview. And he talks about false prophets, people that will lead others astray through false lying words. We see that today as well. And he says, because all of this iniquity, all of this suffering will just seem so great that there will be people who will stop loving God. But then he says, but he that shall endure to the end, he that endures to the end, the person shall be saved. What does it mean? Well, pretty straightly and just to put it concise, those who don't give up on God will be saved. That's simple. Jesus said that there's going to be things that are going to test your faith. Jesus says that there's going to be suffering. Yes, there will be pain there will be betrayal and there will be death. And there will be people who will look at the abundance of all this stuff and their love for God will grow cold. But he says, but those who refuse to give up on God will be saved. Now, I have to be honest with you. There are times in my life where I have been tempted to be angry at God. There are times in my life where I've been tempted, well, if God isn't going to be there for me, then why should I try to be there for him? I don't know if anyone's feeling that way today. Let me share with you one more Bible text because it helps center me and hopefully its promise can help center you. Romans chapter 8, verse 18. Let me share this with you. I even have it highlighted in my Bible app so you can see it right there. Look at what this text says. It says, "For I reckon," this is the Apostle Paul, "for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." Paul was one who knew suffering. Paul was one who he knew what it was like to be whipped, to be imprisoned. He had been shipwrecked. I mean, the guy was bitten by a poisonous snake and survived. He suffered because he chose to believe in Jesus. He suffered because he had a different worldview than some of the people around him that actually had, worldly or political power. He suffered. But Paul writes, he says, look, I look at the suffering, but then I'm reminded that this suffering is nothing compared to the glory that God's going to give me when he comes, when I see Jesus face to face. How can I put that in modern terms today? Paul says, I have chosen not to give up on God because I believe that what he's going to do for me and give me is going to surpass any suffering that I'm currently enduring right now. Those who choose not to give up on God. Now, I just want to share just my own personal thought. I have been watching these things happen and I am alarmed. I'm alarmed because of the increasing indifference that people have to killing. If you have to defend your life against an attacker, okay. But because someone disagrees with you and they make you angry, taking their life, no. Hurting people, causing pain, having pain cause this is not, we're not in a good place, folks. We live in a sick world. And the temptation is to blame God, to be angry at God. How could you do this? So I'll tell you, for me, I have been tempted to be angry at God. I've been tempted to maybe say, Lord, if you can't be there for me, why should I be there for you? But two things that keep me from crossing that line is one, what the Apostle Paul says, one who knows suffering, that the sufferings of this present time are nothing to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed when God comes. What will God do to make up for all this? It reminds me that we live in a world that's ruled by the devil and those who choose to follow him, and we will suffer. But there's another thing, and this is what I want to share with you. I hope you have the same experience. I have lived long enough now to see God do some amazing things. I have seen miracles. I have seen God move brain tumors to make them easier to operate. I have seen God tell cancer to stop in its tracks. I have seen God take people who are not in their right mind and put them in their right mind. I have seen God provide from little things to big things miraculously. There's no answer for it except that it came from God. I have seen God do amazing things in response to prayer. There have been things that I've brought to God and he has taken care of it just quick. He's taken care of it and there's been no question. But I've also seen some things that I wonder, God, where were you? What are you doing? How could you let these things be? How could you let pain and suffering continue? But part of the reason why I don't give up on God is because I know the power that he has. And I know that he loves me. I know that he has a plan. Even if I don't understand it, I've chosen to trust in this God that has proven himself to me over and over and over. We live in a time where there's a lot of pain and suffering. My friend, you might be looking at what's happening around you and you may be wondering what God is doing. You may be wondering if God is even real right now because it's just like, well, what's going on, Lord? What are you doing? Well, my friend, I want to remind you that suffering and pain are part of living in this world. God doesn't want it. He never planned for it. It should never have been this way. I don't know why God allows some things and then puts his hand and stop others. I don't know. I just don't know. But I know that God is worthy of trust because I know he's smarter than I am. He takes the long view of things. And that the suffering of this present world, as Paul says, is nothing to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed when he comes. I have chosen not to give up on God. And today, my friend, even if you don't understand what God is up to, even if it doesn't make sense, I want to encourage you to endure. Do not give up on God because he's worthy of your trust. So let's be part of the solution in this world, not part of the problem. Let's not hate those that hate us. Let's follow Jesus' words. Love those who hate you and persecute you. Pray for those who despitefully use you. Be the heart of Jesus to this world. God will take care of things at the end, and God will give you answers to your questions at the end as well. But until then, do not let your love grow cold. Endure, do not give up on God. He is worthy to be praised. And yes, it will get worse before it gets better, but I promise you, it will get better. So don't give up on him. That's my take. And my friends, that is inspiration to go. Hey, before you go, I want to invite you to be a digital missionary. You can do that by liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing to this podcast, by sharing a link to this podcast on your own social media feeds. In doing this, you can help the mission of this podcast in sharing inspiration and hope with your world around you.